Hello, hello. Hello, welcome. Oh, what's going on with my stream? Hope everyone's connection is okay. Oh, sorry, let me just, maybe if I can move this just a tad. I keep on coming off of the, there we go. Maybe this will be better. Oop, sorry. And then there we go. Maybe that's better. Hi, Stephen. Hi, Mom. Glad that my sound is good. I'm gonna go run. I realized I moved one of my pens. Dang it. Ooh, where did that go? You know what? I think I can just use this one. And that should be fine. Similar enough. How is everyone this lovely day? So I just need to finish up all these details on this piece. I'm starting up a little bit earlier than usual today. I'm considering shifting the time that I do this stream to earlier anyway. Feel like I'd been pushing it later and later as a sort of, oh, I don't know, preemptive procrastination, but it does make it a little bit tricky with stuff that might happen on Friday evenings. Plus, for my European viewers, it's really late if I start at 3 or 3:30. So, considering starting this earlier, like if I start at 2 regularly, that might be okay. 2 or 2:30? Or possibly even earlier, since I wake up at normal hours now. Most of the time. I did sleep in yesterday, but... No, this has too much of a spiky little point. I'm gonna go see if I can find a better pen for this. Sorry, one moment. I will come right back. Nope. Duplicate stream key? What do you mean, duplicate stream key? Change dashboard update. Sorry, I just had a little bit of a glitch on my end. I hope that that only affected me. I suspect that it may have been a little bit broader. Okay, great. I'm glad the stream seems fine. It is... YouTube has been weird the last little while. The way I stream, I have something called OBS, which is a screen capture or whatever. I'm streaming directly from my computer, and then I've got a card capture thing that hooks my phone, or not my phone, sorry, my camera, my DSLR to my computer. So I'm streaming what my camera is transmitting to my computer, and there's a little code that you have to enter into a little whatever security code thing that gets entered into YouTube that allows that. But it's been a little bit weird recently, and it's not been super reliable. So sometimes it'll reconnect without me starting the stream. It'll just start the stream back up again if OBS is running. And then today, I hadn't changed anything about my streaming window, but it seems to have, it wanted to start both a scheduled stream and a like regular stream start. So it refreshed the window and then said that I had a duplicate stream. So nothing really happening on the recording front, but YouTube's been a little bit weird about what it's looking for in its streams. Let's take a look at this. Aha, cool. I cleaned my big palettes and donated one, but I think I will keep the other. The plastic ones seem so cheap by comparison, and when opened up have almost the same surface area. Yes, so I enjoy, I mean, it does take up a lot of room on my desk, so it's a little bit awkward, especially if I'm doing a painting like this, that if I zoomed out enough for you to see the whole palette, I mean, first of all, it would also catch, likely, the weird-ass way I sit. But also, especially if I had a painting that was any larger than this, like this is tiny, it would just make it so that you don't really see any of the detail that I'm painting. So I kind of have to choose between whether I'm filming my palette or my painting, unless I've got two cameras pointing at this, which, as it's been pointed out to me lately, my income from YouTube is trivial. So, until YouTube is its own independent income and not just a way for me to promote other income streams, we are making do with the cameras we have. But I actually really like having all of this mixing space. Now, I also paint on an easel a lot of the time, so then like my painting, my workspace has just my mixing space. So the giant size of this doesn't bother me at all. I quite like it. I will say I filled this palette with a whole bunch of silly colors, which I'm quite enjoying working with, but it's maybe not the most practical choice of colors, and so I'm deciding what I want to do with the other giant one. Because my temptation is I went for all bright colors, like there's really no earth tones at all in this palette. I did like all the crazy colors, and I'm tempted to do something sort of opposite in the other one, and do like a whole bunch of natural earth colors, but I haven't quite decided yet. So if you have thoughts on what I should do with the other giant palette, because I also have two, and I am really enjoying working with this one, and I feel like the form factor actually really works for me, so Let's see. Oh, wait, I do have a big eraser here. Okay, I need to, yeah, scrub up some of this. Stuff here. Let's see. Yeah, I'm thinking of something like that. Especially keep the lightest paints off it, like the yellow and close to them, since they get polluted so easily. Oh, well, I'm the wrong person to speak to about paint pollution because, well, you see these things. Now I do find that every so often, all I need to do, I do need to clean up my yellows, but I've not found it to be a huge issue. I do the thing that's fairly common, I guess, which is I try to keep my yellows, my lightest colors, yellows mostly, really just yellows. Yellows are my issue. I do try to keep them cleaner than the others, including sometimes if I need a pure yellow, I will have a separate well, no, I don't find that to be an issue with these ones because the palettes are so massive that I can just clean it right up. But yes, paints get polluted, quite polluted, and I mostly just don't worry about it. In most cases, I find it just doesn't make a difference. But I am just horrifically messy about all of my stuff. The other thing, I was just noticing I have an eraser here that I've been looking for because some of you may recall this sketchbook exchange that's been dragging on forever. So I've got a sketchbook exchange with some friends. We've got some sketchbooks that have been traveling around the world, except for a few of them, including mine, that have been sat in somebody's storage unit for a while. But I finally got one of the sketchbooks from the other side of the world. So this one is by Gabor, and he did some really neat little ink blot drops at the beginning of the sketchbook for people to fill out. So I've been having a little bit too much fun with one of these ink blots. I'm doing that something sort of based on one of those early on in the Tariff Chaos. There was a photographer that got a 20 minutes of video and photos of a bald eagle fighting a Canada goose in Burlington, Ontario. And I started working on this, but I started getting my hands were disgusting from gardening and seemed to be sweating yuck. And this etcher paper does seem to just like collecting fingerprints, so I needed to erase around it. My blob of yellow gouache seemed to permanently turn greenish. Okay, I can believe that. So my yellows do turn all sorts of not quite yellow colors, but in most cases I find that that is still just as good for most of the purposes that I use yellows for. Now, granted, that is because I more frequently use yellows for mixing or for creating underpainting than I do as like creating a solid yellow. Like, I don't do a huge amount of painting solid yellow subjects. So if you're painting a solid yellow subject and you end up with like streaks of green in it, that can absolutely be a problem. I guess the rare times that I do that, I tend to either then, you know, before painting with it, do a real effort at cleaning out that pan, or I just squeeze out some yellow just for that purpose. But then I guess I'm a bit of a chaos agent about how I use my paints in general. So take everything I say with great big grain of salt. Anyway, I'm looking forward to finishing this. I think I'm going to order some greeting cards with this on them, because I've got some really nice greeting card envelopes that are square. They were on super sale when I restocked my stuff. Oh, actually like a year and a half ago now. So bad. I'm so behind on so many things. Basically coming out of a coma from the past couple of years, and it's not been fun. Not been fun. But I think these will make some really cute little greeting cards, and I can send some over to Porphyry Island of this one and the other Porphyry Island piece that I've been working on. I also have some artwork to send them. I often like to put some yellow or orange yellow down to start. Ah, yes, I do that as well, although I find for that, oh, maybe are you using your paints, like are you starting to mix your paints when they're still quite wet? Like, do you use your paints wet from the tube? Because that's when I found I really contaminate my colors, is if I try to paint with colors that haven't dried down. And then cover up 95% of that. So I definitely do, I mean, some things like that. You can't really see it on here, but there was quite a bit of underpainting, especially like these backgrounds and some of this other stuff. This is maybe not the best example. I have some other work where I've done more of an underpainting, but definitely when I'm covering full areas other than the parts that I want like a glossy white, I do try to cover up a lot of my paper, try to get knock some of that white out. except where I'm going to have like bright highlights. It's definitely love that strategy. Now, for that, I don't find that I have too much of a problem with contaminated colors, but then again, I am using colors from dry, so there's a limit to how deep into the color any contamination will show. So what I end up doing is something like, can you see this yellow? I'm going to move this over so you can see it a little bit better. What I would end up doing if I was doing something like that is I would clear up a space in my palette, and often, again, I don't even worry about the contamination. I just sort of make a big blob there. Maybe I'll pick it up. And then but like even if it's got, you know, even quite a bit of contamination still left on the palette itself, then I'll go into my very contaminated yellow here, and I'll just grab a bunch of it, load it onto the palette first, and between the like digging in, cleaning up the yellow, and the fact that, you know, a lot of yellow, not a lot of anything else, by the time I paint it, like, yes, there's some contamination there, but if I take a paper, paper. Apparently I need to, oh, here's a paper. By the time I get this down to my paper, and have a whole bunch of water down here, get some yellow, oh look, here's some green. So in that context, I've not found that the contamination of my pans has ever really been, or contamination of my wells has ever really been much of a problem. If I wanted to put down some orange, here's some orange. Maybe I'll do something fun with this. Whatever this is later. Here, let's throw in some other stuff. Yeah, look. There. Some more green. Woohoo! There. And we can see that dry. There's quite a bit of contamination of all the things, but I imagine that'll still be fine. And maybe I'll do something with it later. Like one of those blobs I've been having so much fun with in that other sketchbook. Here, I'll throw some more blobs of color in there. And we'll see what I do with this later, because I bet it could be fun. Alright, that's that. What is that orange? Which orange? Well, actually, here's a better way to answer. Here's my color chart for this painting. Hope that's all legible. So this palette's a bit wild. It's a whole bunch of discontinued or slightly less than completely light fast colors that I've gathered up. Aussie Red Gold. Yeah, that's a fun one. In here, that's the Aussie Red Gold. It has a whole bunch of separation. The yellow in it is not the most light fast, and it's a 3-pigment mix, and it's by Daniel Smith, which I had already stopped buying before I stopped buying all American products. So this is a enjoy it while I have it sort of paint. but yeah. It might have been the 153. This lighter one is the Indian yellow. So it's Winsor Newton made. Oh, they named a whole bunch of things. They changed their formulations a bunch of times. So I have the pure PY153 Indian yellow from about 15 years ago. So for a while they had their Indian yellow was PY153, then they changed it so their new gamboge was PY153, a slightly different shade, and they made their Indian yellow with a mix of PY153 and something else, and then they changed their Indian yellow to be something else, and then they changed their new gamboge when PY153 was discontinued. Here, I'll throw some indigo into this mess too. So I am just deliberately making a great big mess here, and we'll see what comes out of it later. And some of this cobalt violet hue stuff. I think that's what this is. Yeah. Or no, this is the cobalt violet light by somebody. There we go. Yeah, I don't know what this is going to be. Something fun. Oh, sorry. Put this back in place. PY110, PO62 on the other. PY110 is pretty close. If anything, you have the M. Graham PY110. I think that one might be more of a tangerine, like a little bit even more orangish application than the PY153 here. But they're close. Black ink outline really makes it pop pretty. Thank you. Yes, I'm looking forward to having the black ink on most of it, except for this background part, to really make it pop out. I think that'll work well. Sorry, I need to keep an eye on time. I'm gonna grab my phone so that I can do that more easily. I was wondering about that. So my phone is dead. One moment. Something was up with my phone, because for a long while it was saying it was at 100% battery, and I was not believing it because it had not gone down. I love the texture of the lichens and moss. Thank you! I also quite enjoy this. So these things here, I might have to add some white ink to really make them pop. But these parts here, they're a slime mold. In here, and then yeah, these are Cladonia here, the little lichens up here. But yeah, I think this one will make a really nice little greeting card. I always struggle because I do paint a lot of dead and decaying things, and sometimes the dead and decaying things aren't the most popular for greeting cards, but really, like, you do want some products. I mean, even if you're selling paintings, you know, people often want something a little bit more lively to look at. Not everyone's morbid and creepifying. Dead and decaying greeting cards. Oh, that's a good one. Maybe I need to make a spin-off brand. Death and decay. There's there's a street near my studio. Two streets over from my, no, the next street over from where my studio is, but off a little bit. Right around the corner from where we used to live, called Decay. It's spelt D-E-K-A-Y. It's somebody's name, like Decay. But just one street over from that is a cemetery, and when we were looking at houses, I was really hopeful that we'd find a house on Decay by the cemetery. We did not. Instead, we live on Strange Street, right at the corner of Strange and Elm. So we've got the Nightmare on Elm Street. I think I like it. It would be a good niche market. Hey, I mean, I do enjoy painting skulls and rotting logs. I'm gonna stop recording here for a moment. Get some more of this footage later. Wait one moment. I'll still be streaming. I've been recording some of my streams, but if I do too much of this, then my computer burns out. Okay, we can shut that. This thing. Street right next to where I live now, which is almost like my last name. As you might know, it's a bird name, but with the addition of nest. It would be Mrs. Bird in Bird Nest Street, but well, this street is named after a medieval painter and I'm okay with it. Yes, I realized I was doxing myself there. I mean, it's if you look up my name, both address, it's very easy to find both my studio and my home address. And partly this is a legal thing, or a taxes thing, where in order to claim use of home expenses, it would have to either be my only workplace, which is not. I do have another studio, or it's where I conduct business and has to be listed as my primary. So whatever. For tax reasons, my home is listed as my business address, which means if you look up my business, which is under my name, you get my home address. I don't love it. There are some ways around this. I'm not at the point where I'm that concerned about doxing, but it just seemed like for being on the right side of tax laws, I should, yeah. Yeah, I'm always a little bit awkward. Like, I do cover up my address so that it's not, like, right in people's faces when I go to open stuff. I do ship things to the studio, which at least then isn't my home address, more frequently. Although sometimes it's easier to have things shipped to home because somebody will be there to pick it up, whereas at the studio, not guaranteed. Like, it is legit. It's because I record videos here, so that's interacting with customers. So since I'm interacting with customers and have it listed as my primary address, even though I have another business address, I can still use business use of home expenses, but it's not me, like, ripping off the government or anything. Just so we're clear, because, you know, this is a thing now. I am, I do try to make the most of my tax situation, but I don't, not lying or anything. But yes, I try to avoid shouting it everywhere. Lest I get any haters. I had a really pleasant and then immediately kind of upsetting experience the other day. I was coming home from... I keep on running into this, like, oh shoot, there's a like, now I'm known on the internet problem. I was coming home from visiting my parents, so I was on a bus, and there was a really nice lady sitting, I was in the accessible seat, and there was someone right beside me, sort of the seat behind, but the way they're arranged, it was almost right beside me. And I was traveling with Ember, so she had her gear on, and she was being herself. She was being a little bit sassy. She wanted to have her tail out in the middle of the aisle. She didn't want to do some of her tricks that are embarrassing, so she didn't want to boop me on the nose. And she kept on pawing me for treats. All good, normal behaviors. And there was this lady sort of giggling behind me. I asked if Ember wanted to introduce herself. Lady said thank you. She thought Ember was really cute, but she didn't want to disturb the service dog. Chatted a little bit to her, and she said, "I recognize you. Is your name Lee by chance?" Because apparently she follows me and owns some of my artwork, which is really cool. Happy to see that. Of course, she recognized me through my dog, which is not terribly surprising. I look kind of average, and my dog is striking, and service dogs are rare, and service dogs that look like Ember are a class of, well, 2. Her and one of her siblings. And so that was all very sweet. And then I took Ember out of the train, and Ember needed to go poop, and there was another dog, and Ember gets a little bit nervy when there's another dog and she needs to go poop. She just gets a little nervy when she needs to go poop, and she'd been holding it in for this entire trip. So the other dog starts sniffing, barking towards her, and she barks back. Now I stopped her, and this was okay, but I always freak out a little if she reacts to other dogs when she's in her gear. So, you know, I had this immediate like, oh, people recognize me, and then immediately my dog acts up. I feel like, shoot, she is, you know, not giving a good impression of owner-trained service dogs. And this just combined with some issues I had a little while back. When I was really sick, Jordan took her out a bunch of times. She's always a little bit more of a brat with Jordan, and I think she was also stressed out about what was going on with me, because I was in and out of the hospital at the time, and not really doing much. And so she had a few episodes with other dogs where she got a little bit aggressive. Again, something I need to watch. I need to make sure that she's trained. But then I was out with her a couple weeks ago, and she ran into one of the same dogs and had a similar sort of, she sniffed this dog, recognized this dog, and then got kind of mean. And she doesn't bite or anything, but she can snarl and sound pretty scary. So not something that we want. And the other owner told me that she'd had an encounter with Ember before, which is not okay. It's definitely not okay. It's something that I want to train against. You know, these are things that I'm very concerned about, but it's also just makes me extra aware that, like, not only do I have a dog who is not perfect, and that's fine, but I have a service dog. I have a service dog who is very, very visible in the community. I don't live in such a large city, so, you know, people see her, people recognize her. And also, I have a bit of a name for myself, and my name for myself is attached to Ember's image, so they know that. So, yeah. There's some stress, where it's like every time my dog acts up a little, I have to be aware of, like, what impression does that give of me? What impression of that does that give of owner-trained service dogs. And then also, like, just the awareness that, I have a little bit, just a little bit of a public image. And Ember has a little bit of a public image. Yeah, so Ember is, like, honestly, she's really, as dogs go, she's really not reactive. Like, and I'm not just saying this to, like, you know, defend my dog. Like, she is super chill about most things, but she has the odd occasional moment where it tends to be slightly smaller, often slightly younger female dogs, and what seems to be the case is it's a mix of play, which if Ember wants to play, she can be a little bit scary, even if she doesn't want to be. She shows teeth, it's play, it's not a threat, but it can look like one, especially to humans. But there's also a little bit of an aggressive behavior that seems to be she wants to tell off other dogs. Like, she's trained to act a certain way, and if she sees other dogs who don't follow her rules, she thinks it's her job to correct them. And it's not her job to correct them. So this isn't, like, not to minimize this, but it is not like she sees other dogs and she gets too excited to handle herself. It is very specific to some situations and some dogs. And even in those situations with those dogs, like, I can stick my hand straight into my dog's mouth. She's not out of control. She's just got some crossed wires. Yeah, it's absolutely situational. It's like, and so, like, you know, at the park with dogs who she's known for a while, there's been now 2 where, you know, I'm friends with the owners and we can all see what's going on, which is, it's not that Ember wants to hurt this dog, she doesn't. It's not that she can't control herself. She has this weird little dog feeling like it's her job to teach little sister how to be better. Ember, this is not your job. You need to stop now. Ember, this is not your job. And so she'll do a little snarl and she'll do a little smack. But, you know, it's not okay. It's not an okay reaction. And she's never done this. Like, she's never done a snarl. She's never done, like, a full snarly thing. Oh no, that's not true. That's not true. Most of the time she's been completely off duty, like she's at the park. She's just playing. Or she's just going for a walk. I shouldn't say never, but it is more of an off-duty thing than an on-duty thing. On duty she has her other issues, but yeah, it's like, it's a stress, plus she thinks it's her job. Plus she thinks it's like, if I don't give her enough real work to do, she'll invent work. And apparently teaching other dogs how to act right is a task that she's assigned herself that is not okay, not welcome, not whatever. Yeah, so the problem is Ember will go and sniff, and then something about the other dog's behavior or just the other dog's, you know, vibes or whatever, she'll decide she disapproves of, and then she'll do a little, it's like a smack and a little snarl, but Ember doesn't realize what she looks like. You know, it's like, it's behavior that out of a smaller dog would just not even rise to anything. Like, oh, isn't this cute? And in fact, when other dogs do, like, you know, we'll get like the little tiny yappy dogs come by, and there's some tiny yappy dogs across the street, and they feel the need to shout at Ember every time they see her, and I just encourage it, like, yeah, okay, yeah, you tell her, but Ember's big. Anyway, it's not okay, and I'm not trying to defend it, but I'm just realizing that I've boxed myself into a situation where not only am I going to be, not only do I have to watch for, you know, how I present myself in public, how my dog presents herself in public because I have a service dog, not only is there the additional challenge of, yeah, I have a service dog and she's not a black lab, she's not a poodle, she's not a golden retriever, so, you know, people see her once, she is recognizable. But that in addition to all of that, I've also created enough of a local name and enough of a media presence that sometimes people recognize me. And especially with Ember being super recognizable, that's happening more and more. And so I just need to, you know, be extra aware of that stuff. Fun. Time for more training. You're just both stars. Ember's a star. Anyway, the main point of that is I need to spend more time out with Ember, but like in a training setting without her full gear on. Yeah, maybe I'll make a video out of it. Oh my goodness. Everything can be a video. Yeah, so Ember does do the leave me alone thing when she's on duty. So that was where I was kind of like, eh. She does a similar thing when she's on duty, but it tends to be much quieter. Just yesterday, actually, I was running so I ran a workshop with a local community organization that works with underhoused people. So there's a housing initiative, community-led housing initiative here in Kitchener called A Better Tent City, and they have a creative enterprise thing that they're running with another community organization called Tiny City Makers. So the Better Tent City is basically born out of, there's an approach to housing insecurity, to homelessness, which is just give them homes. And so A Better Tent City is basically like this community-run assisted housing thing where they have these little tiny homes, like little huts, 6 foot by 8 foot, so they are like just under 2 meters by 3 meters. These little like individual houses that just have, you know, enough room for a bed, a dresser, whatever. And then they've got communal kitchen, laundry, washrooms. And there's 50 of these on this lot. It's owned by the Board of Education. And the residents there are trying to do this. They run, there's an organization running creative, like art or maker workshops with the community, so people can sign up the day of. Participants get paid a small participation fee. So they're actually paid to participate, and artists from the broader community come in and run these workshops. So I was running a paint making workshop, and then the products made, so they're focusing on things that have like a sellable product at the end, so pendants or cards or in this case, paint palettes. And so an artist or maker from the broader community will come into the space and help the residents create some sellable products, and then the community foundation will sell them through local museums, gift shops, whatever. And so I was at this community housing place for underhoused folks, and Ember came with me. And that was actually already a whole question. So I'd kind of forgotten when I was organizing the workshop that, oh yeah, and I have a service dog. That just sort of occurred to me partway through organizing this thing. Oh right, I should probably tell you. And that was fine. We took Ember in there, and they had warned me there's a lot of other animals that come through here. There's like lots of people who live here. They live here because they have pets that aren't welcome in other places like shelters. So, you know, there's a guy who has a skunk, and there's lots of people who have dogs or cats. There's someone who has a duck, and that was all fine. Ember was completely cool with, oh, there's a duck. All right, I will be good beside the duck. And she was fine with there were other dogs coming around, but what she does do when she's on duty is other dogs come sniff her and she'll do a low bark, like tell them off, like, but I'm working. No, what are you doing? So it's usually like a very short bark, and usually low because she's trying to keep quiet because she's at work. Woof, woof. And to be honest, I'm fine with this because really other dogs should not be disturbing her. But yes, we were there and we did have a German Shepherd who seemed actually very nice, but came to sniff her. In fact, came part of the way and Ember went the rest of the way and still felt the need to tell this dog off, like, hi, I'm working, woof woof. Like, wait, shut up. Other dog's not bothering you. The other funny thing is, so I have hypermobile joints where my joints bend backwards a little bit, but not like crazy much. There was one guy at my workshop where his index finger, like my index finger, yes, this is more than what index fingers are supposed to bend. I recognize this. This guy's index finger bent all the way back to where it touched his, like the back of his hand here. And he was just chatting about this, and at some point, like as the workshop was wrapping up, I was like, I saw you do that earlier, you know, you should consider looking into that. I have a genetic disease that causes that. Mine's not as bad. And so he was pointing this out, and he showed it to Ember, and Ember freaked out. What are you doing? That's wrong. Fingers aren't supposed to do that. Woo! Woo! I can bend mine as far back as you. Yeah, so like mine is like, this is more than a finger is supposed to bend back on average, but if that is your only hypermobility symptom, like if you just have a few joints that bend a little bit more than they're supposed to, that may not be a problem. This guy, it literally bent all the way back. And his other fingers weren't far behind. Like, I don't know about the rest of his joints, but it definitely was like, there's something up with your collagen. Yeah. Mine are not that wild. And if it was just, if my only symptoms were like just a little bit of hypermobility, I don't, you know, I'm sort of borderline for the clinical diagnosis for hypermobility. So, you know, if you don't have any issues related to your joints coming out of place, and it's just a few joints, like I wouldn't worry about it if you just have some fingers that bend backwards a little bit. This guy was like very, very, very much more than what I just demonstrated there. And even so, like, he seemed to think, like, okay, well, whatever, like, yeah, maybe that's something, but I'm not worried about it. And quite possibly he has some bigger issues to worry about. But, like, I don't want to go scare everyone into, like, oh, you have to go check it out, you probably have some terrible disease. Like, yeah, well, lots of people are a bit hypermobile. still on top chat? It always likes reverting to that. I don't like it. So we have an election coming on Monday. Yay! Well, we don't have a president in Canada. We have a prime minister. But yes, it's a federal election, so we will be voting for the way the Parliament works in Canada is we all vote for our local representatives, and then each of the local representatives is part of a party, and then a party or parties, plural, form a government. So some group of MPs who together form a majority, whether that's one party or one party, usually the one who has the most seats, recruits other parties to support them, then the leader of that party forms the government. Then they become the prime minister. Basically. So within each riding, I won't actually have a, like, my ballot, I will vote for a local representative. It will, at nowhere on my ballot will the name of the, any of the candidates who can form the government, like my ballot will not have that. My ballot will just have my local representatives. In my local riding, I actually have a Green MP, which is great. We really like him. The Green Party is not going to form the government. Alas, it's just there's not a chance. But I will be voting Green because that is the strategic choice this riding. The actual race here is between the Conservative Party, who currently are led by a guy who is campaigning kind of like Trump light, which is very unpopular through most of the country right now. He's trying to, diminish that and like say that that's not true and that he's the best to stand up to Trump because that is what Canadians want to hear right now. But he is still, up until literally, I think last week, he was still sometimes showing up behind a podium that says Canada First on it, which he claims comes from a speech by one of our previous prime ministers, which is interesting. But it also sounds an awful lot like America First, which is both Trump's slogan and also, Trump only stole it from the America First movement of the 1930s and 40s, when it was a Nazi slogan, like literal Nazis. So, just in all ways, I'll be very glad to never have to see a Canada First podium ever again. It does look like we are going to have a Liberal majority, which is good. The Liberals sort of like our center party. Right now they're sort of center-right because they're trying to pull more of the Conservative voters. I think traditionally they're closer to center-left. on the global spectrum. But yeah, we are, we sort of had a snap election because our previous prime minister stepped down. Carney stepped in. His polling was immediately really good, so he was the leader of a minority government that had been led by Justin Trudeau, but Trudeau was very unpopular within the country by that point, and because of some happenings across the border, the leadership shift in the Liberal Party came with it a very sudden shift in the polls. So they called an election pretty much right away after Carney was sworn in as Prime Minister. The other reason for calling an election right away, the other reason why it seems like Canada's constantly having elections, is because Carney didn't have a seat. So generally speaking, all the people run for their regular seat. The leader of the party usually wins their seat. Usually they choose a seat that they will win. But because it's first past the post, that is not guaranteed. But in this case, Carney came in from outside the government. It was that's kind of why he was chosen, was it meant that he didn't have some of the baggage that other members of Trudeau's government did have. Or, you know, whatever. Perception is everything. But so, yeah, we have an election coming. Hooray! So we get to vote on Monday. And then hopefully we can move on to actually doing things. They don't let me vote because I'm still a Brit. Haven't you been here for like the majority of your life, Stephen? You could get citizenship for sure. Although, I mean, with first past the post, depending on which riding you're in, whether you actually get any say in the contest at hand is questionable. Can you tell that I'm a little bit salty? I'm actually really glad that I'm in a green riding. I really do like our representative. And it's kind of nice to be in a riding that's like in a, there's only like, I think right now there's 2, but it fluctuates. There's like 2 to 4 ridings that actually manage to elect a green at any point. So it's kind of nice to be in a riding that has, I mean, in fact, we have not only a green MP, but we also have a green representation as our MPP in the provincial parliament, which is, like, we're the only riding, certainly in the province with that, possibly in the country. 60 years. I think it's about time to become a citizen. I never liked the way voting for a local candidate is also a federal level vote. I mean, I like it and I dislike it. I feel like mixed member proportional might be a better solution. Like, I think that there is a... I understand that in a country the size of Canada, it is important to have local representation for, you know, geographical differences. Like somebody needs to represent the interests of the far north. Somebody needs to represent the interests of the prairies, right? And if you just have like straight proportional representation, you are likely to miss that. It is valuable to have someone tied to your local interests. I get that. I like how accessible our local members of parliament are. I mean, like, it really is kind of nice when you have an issue to be able to go and speak to your representative, and the representative represents your region very specifically, and has an office down the street and lives down the street, and you can go speak to them. Like, I like all of that. I don't want it to go away entirely, but I do think that it's a bit of a problem that if you are in a riding where, like, if you're in my riding and you have a Green MP, like, that's great, but the Green Party is never going to form the government. We're probably not even going to have any kind of balance of power with our 2 seats. So, and in my riding, it's like, okay, well, it might be a Green versus Conservative vote. I suspect it's actually going to be a weirdly Green versus Liberal vote in this riding, even though the Liberal is barely running a campaign. But the federal Conservative support has cratered that far in this region that it is not, like, I can't really imagine who those voters are. In Western Ontario, in the provincial election, it was a Green versus Conservative, but I mean, our provincial, like, the Premier is Doug Ford, who, wherever you are in the world, you may have seen him be Captain Canada, facing off against the US. He shows up a lot on all the talk shows. I don't like him. I don't like him at all, but he did win with a majority. And so in the Conservative race, our Green MP got 56% of the vote to, like, the Conservatives came in second with 20, and the other candidates were just trailing. Like, nobody even knew who they were. It's going to be a little bit different federally because the Conservative is such a hateful creature. The Conservative leader. But again, like, our ballot won't have his name on it. Our ballot will just have the local representatives, which I don't love, but that is the way it is. So yeah, if I had all of my choices about what voting system to go for, I feel like mixed member proportional, where there are there's local representation that is elected on a first past the post basis, and then it is leveled off with candidate lists to make an overall representation that is closer to the actual percentages of the votes, versus somehow here in Canada, you know, you have the Liberals get 42% and the Conservatives get 38%, it is likely that the Liberals will form a majority government, which is wild. Like, in what realm is a 4-point margin over your, you know, runner-up a majority? Is a, like, you know, you make all the decisions in government for the next 4 years. And it would also allow for smaller parties to actually gain some kind of a foothold, because when you actually talk to people, I mean, I think my writing as a case study in that is, once you have Green MPs, both federally and provincially, our Green MPs are very, very, very popular. And it's not to diminish the fact that they are both great people, but, like, I think that the truth is, it's not that, yeah, you know, in this riding, 50% of people want a Green representative, and somehow in the next riding over, you know, cross the street and suddenly it's a 4% support for the Green candidate. It is like, these are good candidates, but they're not that much better than the other Green candidates. They are just, nor is our riding, like, somehow the demographics are so different from the other surrounding ridings. None of that is true. It is only, like, the only thing driving that is that the only thing driving that effect is that people are voting strategically, and unless you are in a unless you're in a riding where some luck, some weird thing, some candidate dropped out at some point, like in our riding, the way we got our federal MP, our Green federal MP, he was doing well. He was actually, like, he was quite popular by Green Party standards even before, but then what happened was we had a Liberal incumbent. The Liberals were already going to be less popular, so it was already opening up for other candidates to be able to compete, but neither of the other two parties had a very strong candidate, so it was like that already opened up an opportunity for the Green Party. And then the specific MP in our riding had a scandal and stepped down partway through the election campaign. So his name was still on the ballot, but he had withdrawn his candidacy and stepped out. So, like, some people still voted for him, but he was not running. So it made it easier for a Green candidate to get in. Now that he's in, he's going to stay in. Almost certainly. Like, he will probably win with the majority of the vote. It's actually wild if you walk around our riding, like, the number of people who have Green Party signs out is, like, outnumbers all of the other candidates, like, 3-1. So this is definitely going to be a Green riding again. Provincially, it was a by-election. By-elections tend to be they tend to be better for minority candidates. So there was already a Conservative majority. One riding's not going to make the difference. People aren't voting strategically in a by-election. So we had an NDP, 2 Liberals, 1 Conservative. So, like, it was, like, that already opened up an opportunity for the Green Party. And then the specific MP in our riding had a scandal and stepped down partway through the election campaign. So his name was still on the ballot, but he was, like, MPP, she stepped down because of family concerns. She had to go spend time with her family. So there was a by-election a couple of years ago, and we already had a Green MP at that point, so he leveraged his campaign to help get her elected, and then we ended up with a Green MPP as well. She got re-elected in the general election. Because again, at this point we already had Green MP, but I think it's just, as with all of these things, it's like, well, all this goes to show, like, there's this huge, you know, could be a support for smaller parties. It wouldn't be this like two-party race across the country if there was some room for people to vote beyond, you know, okay, well, I need to keep out the bad guy. So I'll vote for whoever is most likely to keep out the guy I hate the most. Anyway, it is frustrating for sure in ridings where there is a race, where, you know, I can't vote for who I want to vote for. I have to vote for who will keep out the bad guy. It is also frustrating in ridings where, like, I have a great representative. I'm very happy with him. I'm happy to vote for him. Unfortunately, when I vote for him, I will not also be voting, like, I will not also be expressing that I don't want a conservative. Like, there's, you know, there's no way for me to express both of those thoughts. Anyway. That's enough politics for now. More poets, less politicians. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, art is political, but partisan Canadian politics is not really a necessary part of my my content creation. It's just a part of my life that, you know, that's gonna be my Monday. Okay, so keeping an eye on the clock. I'm gonna start my recording back up again here. And then next week, I think I'm gonna do a oil painting stream. That's my plan for next week. And I'm deciding whether I want to do like a plein air a la prima thing, but I think I might do that as an edited video because that is a little bit tricky for me to do while streaming. And I think I might do something a little bit completely different for what I'm painting for my but I'm open to suggestions. If you have thoughts about what you'd like to see me paint with oil, do let me know. Yeah, I have oil paints. I got them a while back, but you know, I was too sick with various things to really make the most of my oil paints, but I do have oil paints and I'd like to try them. So yeah, oil painting next week. Thanks, Lana. Thank you for joining. Actually, on that note, I'm still here for a little bit, but I am gonna have to run out in, I'm probably leaving in about 20 minutes. And in fact, I should check my messages first. So I've got somebody coming to see a studio space, my studio, which is all very exciting. Sorry, need to push this back up. So I just need to check that that's still happening, and that also Jordan is going to go build me my greenhouse, and I also need to check that that's all in order because I marked out where I wanted the greenhouse to be, but you see I garden in an unofficial community garden in somebody else's lawn, somebody else's yard, sorry. So I have to check that the guy there, homeowner, was going to check where I'd marked where I'd put in spot for the greenhouse and possibly move it. So I just need to, I wanted to check with him that he'd actually had a chance to take a look at that. Sorry, I need to give Jordan an update before he... Jordan, I just got a message from Dave. So I had marked out a location, and he said the greenhouse location looks good. I would just bring it away from the side back fence by about 3 feet. That way we can get around the greenhouse easier to deal with weeds or whatever without breaking the greenhouse. I put in a stake to mark the appropriate location at the front corner.
Okay.
So you will see 4 stakes, and then you will see
The tools that you took are in the hall?
I will grab them for you.
Yeah. Just set them in the front hall somewhere visible.
I will end my stream and sort this out. Okay, I said that I was still around for a little bit, but it turns out that I need to get some of my stuff sorted, found, in order. So I'm actually gonna end this stream now, but this, we can see, is almost done. So I will actually finish it, but not on stream. I'll finish it later, and then I will actually have a little video about how I'm finishing this with using, finishing this with a cold wax medium, so that it can be framed without glass. That is all. Yes, I know. Yeah. Ember is excited to go out for walkies. She recognizes that people are leaving. But she's going with Jordan, which should be interesting, because I'm going to be without my service dog for a little while. Anyway, that is all. Bye-bye.